Hey guys, so if you're like me, you have a newer F-150 and you like to party. And if that is the case, you probably know that the factory traction control in advancetrac is a bit of a buzzkill. Yeah, I know you can just turn the switch off in the dash, and I know you can hold it for 5 more seconds and it disables advancetrac. Problem with that is it kicks on again slightly around 35 miles an hour. And if you have a selectable electronic locker, kicks on at around, I think, 25 miles an hour. So, if you've ever been doing donuts in your truck and it just feels like it's cutting out, that's why. So I'm going to show you how you can eliminate that completely and disable traction control, anti-lock brakes, advancetrac, all that stuff. So let's talk a little bit about how this all works. Basically, you have your PCM, your powertrain control module here, and you have your wheel speed sensor down here at all 4 of your tires. And what that wheel speed sensor does is it gets a signal from the PCM, goes through your harness connector down here to the sensor, alright? And the sensor sends a signal back up to the PCM telling it how fast the tire is actually spinning. Now the PCM also has a sensor in the transmission at the output shaft. So the computer knows how fast each wheel should be spinning because it already knows how fast the transmission is spinning in whatever gear it happens to be in. So if it sees your rear tire spinning, but you're not actually going anywhere, and it sees front tires aren't moving, rear tires are moving, PCM gets that signal from the wheel speed sensors, and it sends a signal out to the throttle body and the ABS system to close back the throttle body, kick the brakes on to whichever wheel is spinning, and stop the wheel from spinning. That's great if you're in snow or ice or something, but if you're trying to do a burnout, you're trying to have fun, this isn't going to work at all. So, I'm going to show you some ways you can get rid of it. So, now that we kind of have an idea how this stuff works, let's see where everything's at here on the truck. So up under here is your PCM, your powertrain control module, engine control module, computer, whatever the hell you want to call it. And down here, that thing right there, that is the ABS pump, the anti-lock brakes. So what that does is if the computer detects that one of the wheels are spinning and others are not, this pump will send brake fluid through one of these lines that corresponds with the spinning wheel, and it will apply the brakes to slow that wheel down to match the speed it sees from the other wheels. It will also interfere with the throttle body, this part right here. It'll start to close that throttle blade and cut power and RPMs down on the engine by shutting the blade. It's a drive-by-wire system. It's not a direct cable like older cars from the gas pedal to the throttle body. And right there is the plug for one of our wheel sensors. So there are 4 of these, there's one at each wheel. There's the wire that goes down to the actual sensor, and then here's the wire that goes into our PCM up there. Now there's 2 wires here on this plug. You can see there's a purple one and a gray one. Essentially what will happen is the PCM will send a signal voltage down to the sensor, and the sensor will modify that signal voltage dependent on how fast or how slow each wheel is spinning, and it will send it back up to the PCM. And then from there, PCM will say, okay, all the wheels are spinning at X amount of miles an hour, everything's good. However, if it sees that these wheel speed sensors up front are reading 0 miles an hour, but your rear wheel speed sensors back there are reading, I don't know, whatever, 30, 40, whatever miles an hour, the computer's gonna try and stop the party. So it'll start to apply the brakes at the rear, it'll cut power here at the throttle body, and burnouts no more. So let's get into how we can eliminate that. There's a few options. Simplest option, up here at your fuse box, you find the fuse that controls the ABS ABS module and traction control and advance track. In the case of this truck, it's number 36. Different years, different trim levels, different engine combinations, all that. It might be a different fuse on your truck. On mine, it's number 36. So that's this fuse right here. We can just pull that fuse out and be done with it, and just pop the hood when we want to have fun, pull the fuse, have our fun, put it back in. That's one option. I don't particularly like that option. I want to just be able to do stuff on the fly and not have to worry about putting the fuse back in. The other option is we unhook one of these wheel speed sensors. It does not matter which one. You can do right front, left front, right rear, rear rear, whatever. You just, kind of hard to do this with one hand. Just unplug it, and you're good to go. If the PCM doesn't see signal from any one of 4 wheels, it will not allow the traction control and advance track to function. I don't necessarily know why the software in it is programmed that way, but it is. If it sees any one of 4 wheels not getting a signal from the wheel speed sensor, it'll say kill traction control, kill advance track, and you'll get the error messages on your dash. I also don't really like doing it this way, because now I have this just flopping around. It can flop down on the engine, flop down there in the exhaust manifold, dirt and stuff can get in there. I don't like that option either, and it still requires coming down here, opening the hood, and doing something every time I want to have fun. So I'm going to show you a simple little trick here that you can have a selectable option from the cab to turn this off completely whenever you want. Now, do this at your own discretion. You will be cutting into the wire harness. It sounds scary. It's really, really simple, but this is a safety feature of the truck, so I have to say it. Do it at your discretion, your truck, your rules. Be responsible, be safe when you're out down in Mexico doing your burnouts. Real quick here before I get into the nitty-gritty of it. This is what you want to see when you know, or to know that the traction control and advance track is disabled. So for right now, what I just did, I unplugged the right front wheel speed sensor. But if you pull the right fuse, you should see these same messages come up on the dash. So we start the truck up. You should see the check brake system. The low tire pressure is an issue on my truck. You should see service advance track, check brake system, and you should see the that little light on, and you should see the brake light and the ABS light. Now on my truck, on the 33s that I just got, I don't have a tire pressure sensor in the one wheel, and something's going on with either my airbag module or one of the sensors. So ignore those two, but you should see this, you should see that ABS, you should see the traction control light, and you should see those 2 warnings, the check brake system and the service advance track. Now, those warning indicators that come on when the traction control is enabled again. So if you put the fuse back in, plug in the wheel speed sensor, cycle the key off, and turn the truck back on, those sensors should go, or those indicators should go away. So if you if you put everything back together and you still have those lights, something's going on. But again, I'm going to show you how to do this so that you can control it from the cab. So here's what we're going to need. We're going to need some wire strippers, crimping tool, some butt connectors, ring terminals, heat shrink, our switch, wire, electrical tape, zip ties. All pretty common stuff. And of course, you're going to need a couple cigarettes or a beer or a joint or whatever the hell your thing is. Grab it. So this is the scariest part right here. I got the split loom and the tape off of the driver's front wheel speed sensor. As you can see, it has two prongs there and two wires here. It doesn't matter which one gets cut as long as you are cutting one of them to put the switch on and interrupt the wheel speed sensor circuit. It will get the job done. So I'm gonna make a cut down here so that if I ever have to put this back the way it was for some reason, I have enough wire to play with. And here we go. Alright, now all we're gonna do here is put a butt connector on here and another one on here, and then run the wires through here into the cab, put it on a toggle switch so I can interrupt the circuit whenever I want without pulling out a fuse or stopping to undo a wheel speed sensor. I can just do it whenever I want to on the go and be done with it. So we'll see what that looks like in a minute. So we got our wire cut and we got it spliced at one end going back to the PCM with a wire going into the cab, and then the other end also spliced with a wire going into the cab. So we got everything taped and wrapped with split loom and everything. So before I mount the switch, I just have these two wires tied together so I make sure everything's working. So when I start the truck, I shouldn't have any warning lights for the traction control or advancetrac. Driver door ajar, low tire pressure, good. No traction control light on. Park brakes on. Okay. Good. So if I take these apart, then I should get the warnings on the dash. Hang on. Slide them apart. There we go. Awesome. Now we just gotta find the spot to mount the switch, cut these wires back, connect them to the switch, and we're done. So essentially, all we did was interrupt this circuit. So instead of having that wheel speed sensor circuit just complete all the time, we basically did this. We made our cut in that purple wire, and we ran one end of the wire down into the cab and the other end of the wire down into the cab, and then we put our switch here, little toggle switch here, so that when the switch is on, it completes the circuit here, allows current to flow through, and it's basically just like it was before with more wire. When it's turned off, the circuit's open, and the traction control, advancetrac, ABS, all of that stuff is turned off. So it's really, really simple. Only required the one cut in the wire harness. I have everything wrapped up with split loom. All the connections are with the weatherproof connectors, like the heat shrink style, and doesn't throw any check engine codes. Doesn't hurt the truck in any way, shape, or form. It just interrupts that circuit for as long as you want it interrupted to turn the traction control off. Once you turn the switch back on and complete that circuit, the truck's back to the way it was stock, and you shouldn't get any of those error messages on the dash, and your traction control will be back on and functioning like it always did. So I ended up just mounting my switch on a little plastic cover right below the steering wheel. I already have a switch there for my LED bar, so it made sense to just put it right next to it. I'd love to end this video by frying off the tires on my truck. However, I do have fairly new 33-inch all-terrains on it that I don't really want to kill yet, but it's nice to know I have the ability to whenever I want. So, if you do choose to do this on your truck, it's not going to hurt anything, but again, just be careful, be responsible, don't get too crazy, but have fun.